So this may come as a surprise to some of you, but as it turns out, I am not a mind reader. Shocker, I know. But if I were to guess, I'd say most people that see this movie probably won't be that into it because it's kind of long, it's a little bit boring, not a lot of stuff happens, and I just get the feeling that most people probably won't be as into it. Fortunately, I'm not one of those people, which means that I had one more good experience in my life than people that didn't like this movie. So ha 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 ha, cue the music. Hey everybody, how's it going? How you doing? Welcome back. So for this video, we're talking about a movie called The Endless Trench. And I don't know if it's based on a book or something, but it's one of the most appropriate titles I've heard in a long time, because that's kind of what it feels like. And it is a bit long, it's over 2 hours, and there's not a whole lot of action-y things that happen, but there's a lot of substance in there that I found personally. And it also should be noted that this is a period piece. It takes place in the 30s, or at least that's when it starts, so that also makes it slightly more interesting to me, just because I have a slight interest in that time period in Europe, so just, yeah. Maybe I'm alone in this, maybe more people will like it than I thought. I don't know, I get surprised all the time. But anywho, the basic plot of the movie, if I can remember correctly, I don't recall the exact year, it was 1936 or 38, but at the very beginning of the Spanish Civil War, that's kind of when the movie picks up. And it basically follows this newlywed couple, and the husband, for some reason, the authorities are after him, so he kind of has to run and hide. Presumably because he gets falsely accused of war crimes, but essentially you see the husband kind of leave his house, he gets chased a bunch, and then eventually he makes it back to his house where he has to hide for a very, very long time because the Spanish Civil War was going on during that time, and he's a wanted man, so he can't really leave the house, and then there's World War II that comes on, and then, yeah, I'll just leave you with that. So what you're seeing is just how this couple is coping with the fact that the husband basically doesn't exist, and the wife has to sneak in food for him all the time, and the authorities are always sniffing around the house, and then there's like everybody in the village, and the one guy that ratted the husband out also. And like I said, it's kind of a long movie, and it's mostly dialogue. There's a few like stinger scenes that are kind of intense or thrillery, I guess you could say, but it's more so about the drama and the misery that happens when you get stuck in one place for too long, and what that does and what toll that takes on both the person being detained and the person who has to like keep up the facade. So that being said, it's a very kind of Anne Frank-esque kind of movie basically. And I have to admit the pace and the length of the movie, it did get a little boring here and there, but every once in a while something crazy or something suspenseful would happen that personally for me, it kept my attention for pretty much the entire movie. And of course, that particular era is pretty interesting because, you know, Pan's Labyrinth is another movie that takes place during that time, albeit that's way more fantastical. And I truly, truly did feel the realism of this movie, even if it did get a little boring here and there, because I can imagine it was probably pretty boring to be cooped up in that little tiny room for how many ever years he was there. And apparently, this was also not an uncommon story. I guess this happened to more people than you would think. Another thing people might not like is that there's almost no music in the movie. I think there might be maybe 5 minutes worth total. But to be fair, some movies kind of call for that, and the fact that they're so rooted in realism, like No Country for Old Men is another movie that's kind of like that. And I understand the effect, because it's there to kind of elicit this kind of desolation, if you will. And for this particular movie, I thought that was the right choice, and it worked. And although I'm fairly unfamiliar with the Spanish language, particularly the version of the language that's actually like from Spain, from what I could gather, the acting was pretty good. I felt everything that the characters were feeling, whether or not the dialogue had anything to do with that, so that's a good sign. And I won't go so far as to say the pace was perfect, but considering the, you know, the amount of ground this movie had to cover, I thought it was pretty good. For me, there was enough exciting things that happened in the movie to hold my attention, even though it probably could have used 1 or 2 more things to kind of like liven the mood up a little more. And whoever did the makeup for this movie did pretty phenomenal of a job, because there's a lot of aging because he's in there for several years, and there's also de-aging because there's some flashbacks here and there, so I thought that was really good. And I also really liked that it's, again, similar to No Country for Old Men, that this movie didn't really spoon feed you every little thing, because I believe the movie tells you what year it begins, but it just kind of very subtly just throws out lines or newspaper headlines or something that's, you know, said over a radio exactly what year it is. So it doesn't specifically tell you how much time has passed in between scenes. And I really like that because, again, despite the slow pace, little things like that kind of like, ooh, there's a important thing that I needed to pay attention to. Like, oh, okay, now we're in this box. Like, now we're going this direction. You know what I mean? And another thing I really, really enjoyed was the ending. I thought all the emotion that was building up the entire movie, it tied itself up up so appropriately, and just the way that it was shot and just everything about it, I was very, very pleased with it. And I really liked the very last shot of the movie. It was very symbolic, and I thought that was cool. But anyway, guys, at the end of the day, it was a really, really, really well-made, well-crafted movie, but it wasn't the most entertaining that it could possibly have been, I don't think. And because of how long it is, I don't think I could find myself watching it again, but I would definitely recommend it to people if you have the time and patience for it. So I think for a score overall out of 10, I think I'm gonna give it like an 8.4. If you're really into historical dramas and period pieces, maybe this is a movie for you. If you don't mind kind of a slow burn type of movie that's like very emotional, dramatic, but also has a lot of purpose to it, maybe you'll like it. But anyway, guys, those are my thoughts. What are your guys' thoughts? Have you seen the movie? Have you even heard of it? Hop in the comments, let me know what's up. And other than that, if you like this review, give me a like, subscribe, share, hit the bell, do all that other typical YouTube-y stuff, and I will catch you guys next time.